Hope everybody's well. Oh, why does it do that sometimes? Sorry. You fix that. Okay. Good morning. Sorry it's been a minute. It's been nice weather, so I've been trying to work with some seedlings and just exercising, trying to stay in shape, get in nature as much as I can. And I don't know, the crazier the world gets, I guess the more of a hermit I kind of become, the harder it is for me to relate to things these days. Even technology, I look and I see what's able to be done, and I look back at my own life and how much deception has been there. This growing into another person thing is no joke. There's definite growing pains to having the scales dropped from your eyes. And a lot of people want to attribute things today to technology, which I'm on board with. I think we should be reasonable and logical first and foremost, and critical thinkers. And we should all be our own scientists. We should all test our theories, test the spirit of a person, of a being, of a thing. So hang on. Let's see if anyone's here. Make sure comments are on. Geez, it did it again. Good grief. Okay, so I would say that a lot of things right now that are occurring can be attributed to technology, but how much of that technology is crossing over into what we cannot see with the naked eye? And today we refer to things that we once called miracles or miraculous. We give them names and call them things like quantum mechanics and torsion fields, which allegedly create the capability for time travel, or at least prove that it's more than a theory. I watched an interesting video yesterday. I'll have to share it with you guys, from the Y-Files. Love that channel. It's so wholesome. Like, there's no cussing, nothing like that. And it's funny and really informative. So for people like me who aren't the greatest scientists and don't always comprehend certain concepts, I don't know, on that scientific level. For example, quantum mechanics, I try and relate to the resurrection or the Shroud of Turin, or something even like the metamorphosis of a butterfly. That is that action, that thing in action that we can't quite see or touch or feel. And right now it seems like everything is to the nth degree, right? Everything is really intense, not just for me, for a lot of us. And so at least I feel a little fellowship that way with people. And so I stumble onto these topics that I feel like help us relate to things that are occurring in a better way. So I'll look at stories or fairy tales or allegories or parables and try to relate them to current events, to try and help us all cope and manage and show us how to navigate these choppy waters and how to move through all this, right? How we should move now, how we should walk. And I'm learning with you guys and you're learning with me. So sometimes I'll look something up. I'll look a story up, for example, or I'll look a topic up like CERN. And then you keep seeing that certain storylines, right? They keep coming up through the algorithm, through man, through repetition. Is it inherent? Is it something that we all do, that repetition, that there's nothing new under the sun? I don't know, but it seems like I'm not the only one who does this, right? With these stories. Alice in Wonderland has been this allegory for people leaving their comfort zones, right? Or maybe learning about new things, or going on a journey and an adventure, and how that can change you through your experiences and the people that you meet. But also, we use it to explain things that we can't always define right away. And back in the day, science was banned because it was called magic, right? Because people didn't, they were afraid of it. They didn't quite know what to make of it. And so when we look at these stories and we see that they keep coming up in places, it can be interesting. And I like to look at that, and I like to put it under a microscope with everybody and kind of try to feel it out and say, what can we learn from this? Why is this intertwined in like the tapestry of humanity's storyline, right? The biblical story is in pretty much every story. I did a video on showcasing the Little Mermaid and how it's true there. Some have called it the hero's journey, right? Where one person, the one true man, like you in your life or me in my life, and then those around us, because a hero can never be a hero without friends to lift that person up, right? And so sometimes the friends we make though, they don't look the way we thought they would, or they don't sound the way we thought they would, or the lessons that they teach us aren't quite what we expected, right? And we're seeing that now in these times playing out, that things aren't happening quite in the way that we imagined that they would. And how much of that is attributed to technology and man? How much of this is just AI spitting out bizarre stories and things like AI chat GPT? Or is it a higher power maybe trying to break through and talk to us again, or get us to talk to him or her again? And I've heard it said that, if you call God mother, then that's satanic. I'm not here to argue on that topic. I honestly think it's a silly topic. We have bigger fish to fry, I believe. And that's not one of them. Yes, the Bible says father. In a family, you go to the father first. It's kind of where I start. But I also, I appreciate everything that goes along with that and under that hierarchy. And so when that hierarchy gets twisted up, or something keeps coming up in the fabric of that hierarchy. So I was looking up Alice in Wonderland, and this I found by accident. I had no idea that I was going to find this. But there's programming. Alice in Wonder, I guess they use the Alice in Wonderland storyline and characters to teach computer coding, which I thought was kind of fascinating. It's at Carnegie. Ironically enough, my sister went to Carnegie, or goes there, or works there now. I don't know. But I thought that was very interesting. It wasn't what I was looking for. And the things that I bring to you guys sometimes are found in the strangest ways and places. Now, and I'm doing this on purpose, showing you how far down in Google you have to look to find what I actually typed in there. I typed in Alice in Wonderland programming. So on Google, it's wanting to show us data, right? Software, coding software. Until you get here, Reddit, Alice in Wonderland, trauma-based mind control programming. I had no idea there was labeled under the Alice in Wonderland header. But there it is. That's actually what started this for me. I saw this comment on Reddit, and then I Googled it, and they said that you had to use DuckDuckGo. So I wanted to use both just to be fair and unbiased, but here is what DuckDuckGo. Do I have this on dark? I do. I'm sorry if that's bright for you guys. So it starts off normal, right? Wikipedia, because I typed in Alice in Wonderland programming, because that's what the person on Reddit said to type in. And it says films and... Sammy is snoring, I'm sorry. Yes, he is my shadow. We'll talk about emotional support a little bit later, and support groups, and how you can't really have a hero without others to lift him up. And so I've been feeling a bit down these days, but I do know that there are people out there, even if they're few like me, who look forward to just kind of like letting go of the craziness, that's going on, and kind of just trying to learn from everything that's happening, right? And making it fun while we learn. I think the Alice in Wonderland story, people want to make everything a perversion these days. I love classic fairy tales. I think there's a moral in everything, every one of them, and I do believe there's some unfortunate, ugly truth in many of them as people are coming to see as that veil is dropped more and more these days. But that's not what this video is about. So I apologize there. I kind of get off topic sometimes. So we start off normally enough with films and television programs. Then you get into exploring natural language processing with Alice in Wonderland. That's when I decided to type it into Google too, because I'm like, what is this that they're talking about Alice in Wonderland in regards to computer programming? And so then you have deprogramwiki.com. And this is where it might get triggering. And let me get in here my disclaimers. Everything I share is per the Fair Use Act of 1976 for the purposes of education and or critique. Oh, yes, and I'm not a doctor. None of this is medical advice. Anything I say or relay is in regards to my own personal experience. As always, with anything physical, go with the professional that you feel most comfortable with. I hope that satisfies the powers that be. But anyways, yes, I do apologize for the dog in the background. In case you didn't know, I'm just a normal person who just kind of reaches out. I should probably be on radio, or should have been. The higher tech and the faster pace the world gets, I guess the slower I get, and the more I kind of regress into older ways. The more skin other women show, it's the less that I feel like I want to show. I want to preserve the sanctity of things, and I was blessed to be raised with some of those sentiments some of the time, but unfortunately not all of the proper sentiments and values all of the time. And what we're seeing now, I totally believe, is proof that it is not nature versus nurture. It is, as in most cases, both. How we are nurtured has a great deal to do with social, shall we call them, and this is not medical terminology, this is spiritual terminology. Let's call it a spiritual plague. Spiritual social plague. By being raised a certain way. For example, if somebody is raised to hate birds, if they are taught that birds are evil and that they carry, wickedness with them, you'll have a whole generation of people going around running away from and hiding from birds and hating birds simply because that is how they were raised to be. People who are raised under certain conditions will automatically take up the traits of those raising them, much like a religion or a political affiliation. And now, as we're seeing, gender association. And that's just the truth. So what causes all of these things? Why does it seem people, including myself in a lot of ways, have lost their patience, have lost their attention spans, have lost their critical thinking abilities? And again, this takes a great deal of patience. And people say, what is this work that you talk about, this work that you do? That's not Freemasonry talk. That's just common sense. We have to work on our own selves. We can point to the elites all we want, but if we don't educate ourselves, then we cannot arm ourselves, spiritually speaking, against whatever it is that is trying to destroy those we love and hold dear, and the values and belief systems and faiths that we hold dear. So unfortunately, I found what they were talking about. So you have two different things happening here. It's a couple of different, much like with MK Ultra and Project Mockingbird. Again, whatever you look for out there, you can probably find. So you have to dig pretty deep, and you have to look at, okay, who has the most credible information? Can I research this? Can I search this over again back to the source like this person did and confirm these things to be true? Or if it's scientific, can I test this to see if it's true? So if this triggers anybody, I do apologize. But in arming ourselves with knowledge, we can better defend ourselves, spiritually speaking, because I'm a pacifist. I do not encourage violence in any way, shape, or form. Ah, it did it again. See, I'm not even going to check comments that are off. I do apologize. It's not me turning them off. Alice in Wonderland programming, part 1. Say, I heard of Project Monarch, Project Butterfly, this kitten type thing that you see in pop music a lot with like Katy Perry. This one was new to me, and there's not a lot of research material in this regard that's new to me. So when I find something new, especially in regards to Alice in Wonderland, because they use that name a lot. They use that story a lot. They used it in Hello, Darling, the one I told you where people pretty much hid that movie from you. You have to watch it in slow motion to catch what's actually happening in the real world and the reflections. Things are deep, like at this point. But I'm also seeing some really ugliness, and that comes along with like this. And I apologize if this triggers anyone, but it's true. If you do your research, destroying beauty comes along with like when people drop their value system and their standards lower, right? You hear people say all the time, well, maybe you got to lower your standards. You're seeing now in a massive way what happens when a society lowers their standards. This is what happens. I mean, it degrades, it falls apart, it falls to pieces, it erodes. It is destroyed. I think we each have to do our part and arm ourselves with knowledge to defend ourselves against certain, and yes, subliminal attacks, technological and biological and psychological warfare. There is no one coming to save us in that regard. We have to be our own hero. And again, you see that play out over and over and over again in biblical stories, in Alice in Wonderland, in Little Red Riding Hood, in Zelda, the video game Zelda. So Alice in Wonderland, programming part 1, White Alice programming. Trigger warning, graphic programming descriptions. This is Svali blog post, and yeah, so not sure about the source, but they seem to know their stuff. I didn't get into everything, but the year 2018 is of high interest to me. I feel like that's when everything went inverted and inside out and outside in. Some people say 2012. I'm not going to disagree with that. This has been a study. You're seeing entropy in action, right? The beauty is that something new will be born. But what happens to those of us who are still attached to these old ways, of the system, okay? When I say that, I mean the system. I think we should go back to older ways of living in harmony with one another, in tribal ways, without all the technology. But I realize that's not the popular opinion, and I realize that most people will not and cannot do that at this point. But that's just my stance. If things get much tighter, as far as trying to balance and maintain some sense of balance here, I will forego technology. I personally won't have a choice. That's just the way it will have to be for me. You'll have to make your own choices. That's why I haven't wanted to do this a lot. Because I'll miss you guys, and I'll miss doing this, and I'll miss fellowshipping like this, but I don't want to be a part of something that is, we can't help it these days, right? And they talk about banning and boycotting, but I don't want to be a part of something that has become so corrupt. There are people out there who are talking about perversions of everything. Honestly, I don't want to know the color codes, of certain child harmers and certain kind of women harmers, very specific people who abuse others in this way, and use others in this way. I don't know how to explain this. The perspective that we see through, that eye that we see through, that single eye that we see through, is it of light or is it of darkness? I cannot look at the darkness anymore. Like, I can't listen to that stuff. Yes, it goes on. Yes, it's wicked. We need to arm ourselves. Okay, how do we fight this? How do we fight it spiritually? How do we eat properly? How do we treat our bodies like a temple? How do we help our minds and our hearts and our spirits be in alignment and in a frequency that is at a higher vibration, where the lower vibrational things like this no longer can affect us at all, even if they attempt it, like, say, hypnosis, that Ericksonian hypnosis that we looked into probably a year and a half ago now. Things like that they are doing on a mass scale, just like my last video of the Taylor Swift concert. These things are happening en masse, and there is a purpose and a reason for it, and I don't think it's a good reason. But I do think there's light at the end of the tunnel. So let's see what they say. The material in this article could be very triggering for survivals of ritual abuse or mind control, as it contains graphic descriptions of programming. It is best to check with your therapist before reading material such as this. It is a common misconception that hosts or presenters have been protected or have undergone less programming or trauma than other systems. Okay, that's weird. On the contrary, the presentation is often one of the most extensively programmed systems and the survivor of international occultic programming. It can be some of the most difficult programming to dismantle, since basically this involves looking at their own programming. Okay, that was like a mouthful. I don't even know how to unpack that. Okay, so we're going to go. Where did we get this from? Hold, please. Okay, we're going to go here because I want to see. We're going to try and go right to Reddit. Because before we go any further with that one, I want to get a basic description of this. And there is a wiki page. What are you doing? Are you going to show it to me? You're really going to be like that? Come on, little Reddit dude. Okay, that's cool. Thanks, bud. Alice in Wonderland. Programming. Alright, let's do this. I want to see if it'll come up because I want the wiki page first. There aren't many. See, it doesn't even come up. Okay, so we got that. Alright, so there's this volley one, but let's get a basic description of what this is before we go any deeper into the other. Because if there's a warning on it, let's be careful. Let's dip our toes in. Let's not dive right into the rabbit hole. Okay, so it is part of the Monarch Files. We know that. We know that it's mind control. We know that. Alright. Change agents. What does that even mean? Purpose is to galvanize public opinion in order to affect mass consciousness, which we're seeing. We are seeing people like, it's like a hive, or like, you know, worker ants, like everybody, or drones even. People have been turned into automatons. And I don't want to overstate the fact, like, yes, we are supposed to have a certain detachment about this life and the material things. But when people lose their basic compassion for other living beings, and I mean just on a basic fundamental level, right? There are groups of people right now taking joy and some sick pleasure in tormenting others for the sheer pleasure of it. That is a sick mind. That is a sick spirit. And no amount of politicking, no amount of voting is going to change a spiritual sickness. Okay, we need a spiritual solution. But in order to have a solution, we have to diagnose what's happening. So is this a valid branch of what's happening? But here's where this gets weird, and we're going to branch off. Because the next video, right now we're looking into the programming. What we're going to look into next is the story and how they're using it in programming, language as a whole, and how it's being used at CERN. They have Alice down at CERN. They have it in the Resident Evil video games. We should do a search on that name, period, where it came from. Oh, please, I need a drink. Okay, in addition to standard functions as, you can see it there, SDX slaves, couriers of coded intel, drug mules, which I don't doubt that at all. I had suspicion about that myself, about the drug mule aspect, because these people, again, who would make the best CIA operatives? It seems like actors and actresses are allowed to travel at will. Anyone who's, and I don't mean to say, I don't mean to be insensitive about this or make a blanket statement, right? But not everybody is free to travel. Yes, you might be told that, but can you take the vacation time off? Can you afford to take the time off? Can you afford to get together with your family and do that as a family and go to another place? There are people all over YouTube that have done it since the beginning of their channels, before they were a quote-unquote success on YouTube. People that travel like that a lot and go across borders would make the best CIA, FBI agent operatives, and of course the best mules. And they're always declaring actors and actresses that are like, what's Angelina Jolie? She's like an ambassador to the UN. Like, that's a big deal. We have to look at the way this moves through society and where it's coming from. How to solve it, I don't know, but I know that we have to at least know it's there and it's happening. Okay, now this is weird. Mind control slaves are used to push specific agendas, which we know this. Progress is measured via video CD, concert receipts, and media appearance ratings. Once bonding with target demographic reaches desired levels, meaning once the like say the targeted level is young adult, 18 to 25, right? Once that group is receptive towards this artist, let's say like Beyonce or like, I don't know anyone new today, so I don't even know who to say, but you get what I'm saying. Once they've been beta tested and they see, all right, the public likes you, they're going to listen to you. Let's use that. Let's use you to push this. Those people, that's why they change. They're no longer allowed to be themselves. They turn into a brand. They become a product. And at this point in time, many of us are becoming products. You see how often people are pushing content and content and content, and that's what matters. It's not quality, it's content. Everybody is monetizing their every move on the internet. Everybody is moving towards the blockchain, towards that kind of currency. I don't mess with that stuff. I've never messed with that stuff. People might call me naive or what have you. I mean, I worked at a financial institution. I saw how they moved money. I understand how it operates. I worked at restaurants. I know how food safety works. I see how things are very easily able to spread through society if you have just a few people in the right places. And that's the blessing that comes from being a diversified person. You have to be able to be a marketable person to be an asset to your community. And I always wanted to be that. I wanted to be a commodity to my community, and not in the monetized way, but in like a help. I'm a helpful person, not a hindrance, right? Not a burden. And so this is why I do this, is to try and bring awareness to what's going on. Okay, so now they're going to get into that, but where is the Alice part? And see, this is where I get... Okay, the basis for success of the monarch mind control programming is that different personalities or personality parts are called alters. We know that. But who can take the body at different times? We know that. This I don't like, because you have a lot of people saying that they have missing time and they're attributing it to like alien abduction. But basically what we're talking about here, this is a very fancy way of an alter ego. This is a fanciful way of talking about a type of possession. This could be construed to be, frankly. I mean, it's just semantics. It's just using different verbiage, but it's basically the same thing. They break down your mind, they fracture it, they get into different pieces and parts so you can compartmentalize emotions so that you don't break down. But a lot of these things do start to break down when a target becomes of a certain age. For me, that seemed to start happening around 35, 36. Again, I don't know if what happened to me my whole life was ritually planned or anything like that. I just know that it matches these patterns, okay? I'm not here to discuss intent. Again, this is why we're supposed to pray for our enemies and against the spirit of a thing, right? Pray against this agenda, right? Learn how to defend yourself and your families against it, but don't condemn these people that they're using, because they are honestly they should have our sympathy in a lot of ways. That's my opinion. You don't have to agree with me, but let's talk about it like adults. Okay, so then it talks about the shield of secrecy allows cult members to live and work around other people and remain totally undetected. The front altars can be wonderful Christians, and the deeper altars can be the worst type of satanic monster imaginable, a Dr. Jekyll, Mr. Hyde effect. Dissociative amnesia following soldiers involved in combat trauma has been extensively documented. Again, this also comes up a lot with alien abductions. And please be patient with these videos, because these are going to tie in to a lot of what you're seeing here. The alien deception, what's coming, it will not work. It will not function properly if these, let's call them play cards, like a place card, a placeholder. If these little placeholder people, these little drones that they put out in society aren't programmed properly, aren't hypnotized, aren't broken down, I don't know, I don't care what word you use for it. If they aren't the proper little Manchurian candidates, it will fall apart. And if that can be broken, if this, however it's getting out, and I'm not making any claims, but however these messages are getting through to people, or whatever frequency is coming through, can it break through this type of stuff? Okay, so we know all about MK Ultra. We've seen this. We know about PTSD a bit, we've went into, but let's get back to the Alice aspect angle. See, I hate when you do this to me, Reddit. Why do you do that? See, and you see how deep you have to go to actually find the real information? You have to go all the way over to DuckDuckGoo and then go here. And I don't want to lose this. There it is. Okay, so there's the Reddit thing again. And this person's asking, Alice in Wonderland programming, I'm desperately seeking any information concerning the Project Monarch, specifically the Alice in Wonderland programming. I have hit a wall in my research, so anything is helpful at this stage. Links for more research or personal experiences. And that was 3 years ago, okay? Page not found. You can open this link and, okay. See? See how they get rid of it? It's just like they bury it. All right, so we're going to have to go back to this, and we'll just have a warning, and if I have to make it an 18 and under, but I just won't read it if it's wicked. Okay, so let's go back here. Okay, in most international occultic groups, the child spends the first 3 years full-time at a cult facility, being continuously programmed. Oh, that's horrid. At age 3, the child will also be placed within several host families around the world. The child may grow up with anywhere from 2 to 7 families in different countries and will typically spend some time each year with each of these families building a life story. Wow, that's wicked. So where do they get these children from, though? Okay, so and again, this is how this all ties together with orphan trains and some of the things you're seeing now with how they're really wanting to separate parents from children at this point. This is big. This is epic. This is something going on behind the scenes, and I don't know quite what it is. I thought, and you guys know my theory, I believed that a spiritual rapture of some type had occurred in 2018. But again, at this time, I'm just not sure. Did something massive like this take hold of people? And again, if you understand the verbiage that I use, please do give the video a thumbs up. If you understand how all of this is going to end up being tied together, if it's a topic you like and appreciate. It's not going to do anything for monetization purposes. The channel's too small for all that. But if you like the video, it lets me know if I'm going in the right direction. And again, knowing about these things lets us know a little bit about what we're looking at and the craziness that we're seeing play out and why it's happening in the way it's happening. So then, diagnosis comes first, and then comes a remedy, and we talk about solutions, hopefully. That's the goal. But our aliens or angels going to make an appearance, fallen angels, fallen aliens. I believe the Babylonian gods are going to have a lot to do with it. The pharaohs, they had that big Egyptian procession that we spoke about in one of the live streams recently. They did that. What year was that? 2019, right when TV began. They kind of kicked it off with moving some sarcophaguses of Egyptian royalty. And royalty has been a very big concept spreading, even in my own story, which is weird. I never knew what my dad's name meant or what my name meant. It's all very strange to me. So it all has these very personal aspects to it for not just me, for a lot of us. I hate this term, but people relate to it, so I use it. A lot of targeted individuals, we feel like this. We feel like we have reached a point in time where we're like, what is this? Just a backstory? Is my whole life some fake facade? Am I some Truman? And that's where we get into the Jim Carrey phenomenon. So this all does tie together, I promise. So this is weird. I don't like this. Where they get the children from? Where do they come from? So the child, the product, right, spends the first 3 years. So they're building a life story. School photos are taken and a cover identity created in the countries which they anticipate the child will be working for them as they grow older into adulthood. The families will be given photos of the child or a look-alike in infancy for photo albums. Okay, just yesterday that's weird. That's strange. I apologize. There are some personal aspects that are really weird about this. And again, I read all this with you. That's the whole point of researching together. It's a surprise to me. It's a surprise to you. These host families will have programming to prevent the child and the host parents from bonding with each other. That's lovely. Since the cult wants the child to always maintain their primary bond with the primary programmers, the true host and core will always only be allowed to bond with these programmers. Because maintaining the amnesia between presentations and the prevention of remembering the cult life is such an important cult goal, there will be several programs used to keep the amnesia in place. One of the major ones is Alice in Wonderland, which we'll describe here as it is used by the... Oh, geez, are we going to get into that angle? All right, here we go. I'm not saying it. This is what... Deprogram Wiki, identifying and deprogramming undetectable mind controls. Well, hopefully they are detectable in some ways. If you have lost time, you have an issue. I would highly advise against seeking psychiatric help that utilizes only hypnotism as some cure-all. Personally, that's not something I would personally advocate for myself as a human being. You are free to do as you will do. I didn't know, wow, this is weird. White Alice, Black Alice, and Crazy Alice programming. Fantastic. We have some really... there are some really nasty beings. I just don't get it. Okay, but we're all about solutions here, and we want to see how all this ties together, so let's keep going. There are often 3 versions of the Alice programming installed, and each will be a backup for the other in case one fails. See, and this is computer programming language, right? And again, we are like gods in creating AI. And will AI be as dissatisfied with us as sometimes a lot of us are with our creator? Will AI strike out at mankind? It's worth considering. But nobody ever wants to think. There's how many stories about this going way back, Tales of the Beyond, Outer Limits, The Twilight Zone, The Hitchhiker. There were all these warnings. Even the Will Smith movies, I, Robot, you know, that's more recent. People, and like, we still didn't learn. It has to happen in real time, I guess. So there are often 3 versions of the Alice programming, so each will be described separately below. White Alice programming is designed to ensure the host parts do not remember any caught activity and believe their ordinary memories of life are the whole picture. Crazy Alice programming is designed to make the host parts feel like they're going crazy. Wow, does that feel like society today as a whole? Like how the media is gaslighting us through Project Mockingbird? Because that plays in, like, this is all psychological warfare. It's all psyops against the citizens, the peasants, the regular, the deplorables. Wow. Okay. Be afraid of going crazy and to return to the cult for treatment. That's weird. Right before all this began for me, my sister asked me that once. Aren't you ever afraid you'll go crazy? No, I told her. That's not gonna happen. Weird. You know, people, I just don't understand. People actually sit down and, like, this is their job. They come up with these concepts in their white lab coats and go home and kiss their wives and children while they destroy other people. Black Alice programming is designed to make the host parts afraid that they will hurt the people around them if they remember what they were told by the cult not to remember. I will share about Crazy Alice and Black Alice programming in future articles. Huh. You're only going to give us one now? It is common for members of occultic international groups to have at least one presentation that goes by the name Alice. This is for a specific reason. This is a trigger for Wonderland programming. The programming starts in the womb, prenatally, with the various Wonderland creatures talking to the... Wait, what? I'm sorry. And this is why I haven't done videos for a while either. Like, I'm just so desensitized at this point. Like, I can only laugh at some of these things. The programming starts in the womb. With the various Wonderland creatures talking to the birth mother and fetus, and with specific traumas that create the main characters. Wonderland creatures talking to the birth mother. So is that basically they're saying the handlers there? Are they getting into real Alice in Wonderland language there? See what I mean about how the language is very weird, and I'm good with words, and this still throws me. It continues during infancy. For instance, the infant will be dressed in a dormouse costume and taught to drink tea that makes him or her sleepy on command, or as a Cheshire cat with an outside actor modeling the role of this part. Are they serious? Is this a joke? What? See, I want to get back to that Reddit post and see what that person actually says about this. What is this page? See, like, this is all they have on here. They're not kidding. Oh, Springmeyer, that dude is... Don't even go there if you can avoid it. Just don't. Deeper insights into the... Oh, okay. So I see what kind of... Yeah. Wow. Okay, so you guys can read some of that for yourselves. Crazy. Like, I just can't believe people actually do this. Hey, now stop. Go away. There we go. Sorry. Anyone here? 3 of you. Thanks, guys. Hi. Okay, so I guess they're serious. The initial programming is continued and reinforced over the next few years in the programming studios that have props and virtual reality films as well as costumes and actors until all parts for all 3 versions of the Alice programming understand and reliably perform their roles. What? By age 3, the child would be taken to a large estate in France or other locations depending on the group for the full reenactment of Alice in Wonderland. This is an elaborate setup and occurs over the period of a week. The child enters through rooms that reinforce previous training. Control the Children is recorded and replayed with pictures of deleted children displayed on the walls of the room, mirrors, remember the flowers, and other triggers. The child then enters a backward world And see, this is what we're seeing play out today. I told you, when I moved into this house, the first neighbor next door brought his daughter over, and she sat with me for a while, and I gave her some crayons and paper. I always have art stuff around. And she wrote her name. It wasn't just backwards, it was like inside out and inverted too. And it was expertly done, I'll give her that. But it let me, again, know the type of people that or beings that I have around me. And this stuff is, I mean, as much as people want to shake their head, things are happening. And whether it's because of science, technology, or God, and you know, God is still in control here. What do we do to get people's sovereignty back to them and their free will? And do you and just like with the dark wolf and the light wolf, right? To heal from these types of things, do you welcome these alter egos and embrace them all and show them all love in kind of like the Sybil-esque way that they did in that old Sybil movies from the 80s? Do you have to like show each one of your alter egos this love? Or can you just like have it broken somehow by having it broke down? I don't know. And this is sad because it's not just the mind it happens to. This is harmful to the soul, right? Like that is eternal. That is what we should be most concerned about here at this point. Is not only is it obviously stealing this being's life experience from them and taking the power of choice from them, right? And I was thinking about that the other day, why I escaped into fairy tales and stuff so often, and why I ended up doing things that I knew were wrong or against my nature. And you guys know my story, you've heard all that. But the point is where did those decisions come from? And it was like this deep self-hatred, this need for love and acceptance, and you know, it's just what it does to a person is really unfortunate. Okay, so I really don't like it. Just says that they actually act all this out. Alice agrees to always. So they're actually saying this is a real thing. The caterpillar, after performing a sacrifice and making agreement to always forget and only remember what they saw on the screen, videos of presentation, normal memories, the child then enters a garden with animated demonic flowers that at first talk kindly to the child, but later turn on the child and attack them. Okay, this is just bizarre. The white rabbit and the Cheshire cat lead the child to safety, but at times they will trick the child until the child learns to rely on themselves instead of these capricious demonic helpers. Wow. So they act out the whole thing is what this is saying. I don't know about that. Do we believe this? You think this is legit? Do people actually spend their time on what, like imagine you do this with one resource. You put all these resources and expend all these resources just to brainwash basically and have control over one child. They're doing this to one person at a time. Because I don't see how it would work with multiple. You can read some of this along. It is nasty. Okay, so then none of this. The love bond is represented by the heart with the understanding by the child that if he or she ever remembers and the amnesia breaks, these individuals will be deleted. So again, it's much like you see a child harmer. They will say, if you ever tell anyone, I'll end your mom and dad. You know, this is our secret. You can't say anything. I just am wondering what component of everything that we are seeing happen in society right now is due to some type of subliminal coded messaging being sent out. Like legit. Like I don't know. I know it sounds crazy or whatever, but Why can't I get to that? That is what I want to read. There it is. Yay, finally. Okay, so she says she's desperately seeking. I want to see the comments. Okay, so there's this volley one, the one we were just reading. The Wizard of Oz. I found that the other day. I meant to look at that. So that's another one too. Basically, and again, these are all the same stories. It's a girl going on a journey, meeting these animal, half, half-people, sound familiar, half-animal, half-human, hybrid friends that she makes, to overcome evil, right? Shoot, and I had a link on the Wizard of Oz one, but maybe we'll make that in a separate video. Damn me, I did my research years ago. Well, why can't you just... Okay, the following excerpt is, and see, this is where you'll find gems. This is why you read comments, and this is why you look into things. So again, if we have Project Monarch, Project Butterfly, the sex kitten thing, and then also, what is the other one? For the media, we have that one turned in on us, right? Wow. Like, don't you have anything better to do with their time? Seriously. So it says CIA Torture Guide dated July 1963. I've actually looked at that before. The aim of the Alice in Wonderland tactic or confusion technique is to confound the expectations and conditioned reactions of the interrogatee, or in its current mainstream application, to force the controlled narrative onto an unsuspecting public through the use of psychological operations tactics spread through the mainstream media. Operation Mockingbird. This is the best and most complete information that I can trust regarding this program. Let's pull that up. Wow. So this is a whole nother search. Ascension Glossary. And so now, again, this wouldn't have come up for us because we searched Alice in Wonderland programming, and now this led us to Alice in Wonderland tactic. You see how in a lot of these things, this is straight up Julian Assange, like, he should be a hero of today, if the dude is even still alive. What he did and who he, like, what he tried to do, and what has occurred because of him, in truth. You know, a lot of what we're seeing being revealed is because of him. And if you don't know who that is, shame on you, go look him up. The following excerpt is from Cubark. Okay, so we just read that. And is to force the controlled narrative onto an unsuspecting public through the use of psychological operations tactics spread through the mainstream media. Most people are accustomed to a world that makes some sense, at least in their mind, and that which supports their sense of identity. And again, this is why you're seeing so many struggle with their quote-unquote identity. This is why it's a good idea to drop ego, to understand that your style is not what makes you. The spirit within you is what dictates your style, your walk, your talk, your swagger. That's what makes you, not these accessories, though accessories can be nice to have. I know, I get it. At the same time, that's not what makes us, right? That's not who we are. And so we have to get rid of this idea that our identity is created by a label that somebody else bestows upon us. It's not we don't need all these labels. And quite frankly, that's why everything is so confused at this point, is because we demand that everything have a label. And that's not always good. You know, people, things, we have names. Isn't that enough? I don't know. Everybody is struggling, and it doesn't matter the amount of booze that you drink. It doesn't matter the amount of drugs that you take. It doesn't matter the amount of men or women that you sleep with. It's never going to fill that void or that hole that is within. And that hole is for God, for what's godly, and for that relationship that brings us back into communion with each other and with God. Because if we're in communion with each other, it's easier to be in communion with God. And if we're in communion with God, it's easier to be in communion with eeach other. I don't mean to be preachy. That's just what I believe. Is anyone even here? Hello. So And this is what we're seeing right now. Most people are accustomed to a world that makes some sense. They may believe in a world based on continuity and logic, a predictable world. The individual or the public may cling to this belief system that makes up their worldview in order to reinforce their ego, identity, and powers of resistance to not bend to the will of others, superimpose narratives and agendas. Why was I being a little sarcastic there? That's what we're seeing happen now. That's why you're seeing, and how do I explain this in a kind way? Every one of us who exposes another being or ridicules an organization or how do I say this? I don't know. There are foundations of a society, right? There are pillars of a civilization. And right now, those are being torn down. They want to tear down maybe our religion, our faith, our belief system, our values, who we are as people. It all happened during the Cold War. They knew, or during World War II, they knew this. It's about breaking down who you are, breaking down your spirit, just like God does, but they don't want to make you better. They want to be your God. They want to dictate what you do with your body, with whom, and when. This is why the abortion debate is more than a hot button issue. I'm not going to say anything in that regard as far as voting. I will not vote on that because, yes, it is barbaric. They are little martyrs that have been sacrificed, and I know I speak from experience. It damages the woman almost beyond all help, except for, the power of God. However, at the same time, if we give the government control over a woman's body, what does that lead to next? And what road are we headed down when we say full-term deletions of smaller individuals is okay? Because then it's just going to be, we'll round up all these depressed people. We can't afford to put them in an asylum. Round up all these homeless people, and let's get rid of them in a humane way. And they'll justify their actions. That's what this is all leading to. Nobody wants to do anything. Everybody's full of apathy, apathetic, too much fluoride in the water. I'm tired myself lately, just weary. I want to make a difference. I want you to want to make a difference. I want our children to thrive. But I don't know how to go about helping people who don't want to see the problems that are coming with certain decisions that that people are making. We're going to have to, those of us with core values that value life, that value spirit, we're going to have to break off and go our own way at some point. It's going to come to that. Or you will sacrifice yourself for the system, for your family, for your husband, your wife. So the confusion technique is designed not only to obliterate the familiar, but to replace it. Just like I said, once you create a void, you have to have something to take its place once there is a vacuum. That's why all these people saying down with the police, what do you think's going to take their place? You think they don't have a solution waiting? It's going to be the UN, so come on now. Come on. They want us to want their help. They want the system to break down. They already have the solution, and it's not a cure. Their solution is, in my best estimation, wickedness. And based on, it's problematic because I feel like computerized algorithms are making decisions that human beings should be making at this point. And I think that's why there is a lot of confusion. I think AI has been given a lot more power than we're aware of and is trying to sway humanity to do harmful things to itself. And I think that's just in a lot of humanity. And again, Yes, we built computers. They don't have any intelligence without a man programming them. How much time is devoted to this, to them actually doing this? I mean, we see Stranger Things. We know they've admitted to a lot of this stuff now, but we never do anything. Why are we so apathetic? And I'm asking. Is it lack of organization? We don't know where to go. We all looking for a leader. We can't just play follow the leader all the time. Sometimes we have to be our own leader. But what do we do about this? This is so bizarre. The confusion technique is designed not only to obliterate the familiar, but to replace it with the weird and nonsensical. Much, again, like Alice in Wonderland, when she goes through the looking glass, everything looks the same, but it's twisted and inverted and backwards, normalizing lunatic behaviors and states of madness portrayed as sane. Now, the whole thing that started me on this journey, and most of you know this, and I'm still looking for someone else who experiences life this way. It's gotten much more increased since 2018, but basically for me, things happen in reverse. For example, I will cry and get very sad one day, and I will just bawl over nothing, like I don't even know why it's happening. I'll just cry. The next day, something very sad will happen, or somebody will pass away, and I won't have the tears because I already cried for that. I didn't even realize it. It's been so long since I watched the movie, but I guess the White Queen, when Alice meets her, she pricks herself with a pin, but she only knows it because she starts bleeding and she pricks herself afterwards. That's pretty much how my life has went for a long time now. And I don't think I know my mind works differently than a lot of people, and I see patterns that a lot of people can't pick up on, so I try to point them out to people. But if there's anyone else who's experienced that type of like time displacement phenomena, I would really like to know about it, because I feel almost like it's like I do something in the future that causes this reverberation back through my life, or something is done. And I think something really big is obviously happening in humanity. It's going to be epic, and it's already sending, what we're seeing is the echoes of it now already, like a drop of water, you know, in an ocean. You'll see it ripple outward. And I think we're seeing the echoes of whatever happens already, because it's going to be that transforming. Okay, I try not to go longer than an hour on these anymore. Yikes, no thumbs up, guys. Thanks. And I know we're just getting our toes wet here, because the next thing is going to have to be, we're going to pull up the story at the same time as we look into some of the computer programming and some of the CERN correlations with this. But there probably will be a part 2 of this if I can go through the rest of it and it's not too bad. Oh, wow, that's crazy. Here we go. Rule 13 for disinformation. Alice in Wonderland logic. Avoid discussion of any issues by reasoning backwards or with an apparent deductive logic, which refrains from giving out any actual material facts. Oh my gosh, people do this all the time now. When you ask somebody a question, or you're having a dialogue with somebody, they'll just like ignore you, run right over it like a steamroller, I say. They just keep talking. Or they give you the circular reasoning that doesn't actually make any sense to anyone but them. Like, I don't know how people, like, they actually think that they're fooling somebody, in my case. And I just, from my perspective, I'm tired of it at this point. And other TIs, you know what I'm talking about. Alice mind control, slightly offbeat and idiosyncratic but gentle introduction to an unapproved topic or subject, which for most 3D people most of the time is safely relegated to the realm of fictional horror, ridiculous conspiracy theories, or a similar mental pigeonhole, so that life can proceed according to their belief systems or resume as normal. The relevant work of Albert Biderman were also used in the training of interrogation specialists. Okay, that gets deep. To break a person's will, it suffices to deprive him of all human contact. Gee, what are we seeing in all of us, in all of our cases right now with targeted individuals? All of us, every one of us are isolated. The ones who are actually targeted, none of us have real support systems anymore. To break a person's will, it suffices to deprive him of all human contact, to disorient him, to disrupt his biological rhythms, which is messed up, and subject him to great stress. By using a suitable combination of very simple elementary techniques, such as, and I'm very familiar with these, disorientation, sleep deprivation. I've had that a number of times. Every time I would fall asleep, come in, turn the lights on, yank the pillows out from my head. Like it went on and on for nights on end. Sensory deprivation, or degrading the subject's psychological integrity, swiftly disintegrates. He quickly regresses to an infantile stage, and his will is broken. Like, people actually have tested these things. This is disgusting that we do these things. Oh, here's the Wizard of Oz mention. The movie The Wizard of Oz is used by monarch handlers to program their slaves. Symbols and meanings in the movie become triggers in the slave's mind, enabling easy access to the slave's mind by the handler. In popular culture, veiled references to monarch programming often use analogies to The Wizard of Oz and Alice in Wonderland. And stress induction for mind control. So a lot of targeted individuals will call this their like kickoff event. The thing that happened when they really noticed things were happening around them that shouldn't be happening, and or they were traumatized purposely for the purposes of exploitation and or trafficking and or many other things. I don't even know what to do anymore. We need to be gathering. Like-minded people should be gathering and should be supportive to one another emotionally and mentally, and sharing resources if and when possible. This is why our enemy is our enemy. They have pooled their resources. They have treasurers of their funds. They have groups, clubs, and organizations. That is the only thing that they have done better than us, is organize. We have a lack of focus. Everybody's working for their next day off. Everybody's working for the weekend. Everybody's working for vacation. It's not going to matter if you work or not, sooner or later. Everybody will end up being treated the same way. And it's unfortunate because it all happened before. And our generation just had the luxury of coming in under the radar as far as when we were born and whatnot. Themes in Alice's adventures in Wonderlands. Abandonment and loneliness. Okay, so we know that this is how they relate to... All right, so it's been an hour. Let's do this in a part 2. Let's line this up. I'll pull the actual, because I got the book on Kindle. Through the Looking Glass is the specific one I wanted to look at this time for some of the things we're seeing being portrayed by the media in a purposely, I believe, inverted way. And there are no accidents. There are no coincidences anymore. We all need to get past that. And those of us who are for values, those of us who are for moral integrity, those of us who know we have made mistakes and have learned from them, those of us who are admitted sinners and just want better for our children and their children, those of us who are against this type of dictatorship and tyranny, we should gather. Not for the purpose of violence, but just for the purpose of living. Living, not just surviving anymore. Not just working for the weekend, but for living. And what YouTubers like me do, and you can't even call me a YouTuber, smaller channels, we're just fishers of men. Like, that's literally what we're doing, is testing the waters to see who else out there is like us, who else is having these experiences, who else is listening to nature and paying attention to nature and seeing that even nature is confused now, and that's a big problem. Sooner or later, it's not going to matter where you live, what state you're in. It's not going to matter what you identify as. It's not going to matter the skin tone that you have or the plumbing that you have. We're all going to be facing very similar issues very soon on a global scale. And I think that's worth talking about. And I think that we are worth... I think humanity has done amazing things together when we have come together in the face of tragedy. We have triumphed over and over again. But it's been so long since somebody took that first step to just unite people. And I think, we're going to be wanting that. We're going to be looking for that. And I hope that we don't make the wrong choice. I hope that we don't make the wrong choice. But a lot of people will go towards that because, again, it's been several years they've been doing this. They've been instilling this isolation and seclusion in us. They shut down even the churches, didn't want us fellowshipping, tried to stop people from singing, which I thought was probably the most insane aspect of all of this that I've seen. You're not allowed to, gather with, can't be 6 or more, right? Can only be 6. 6 feet apart, you gotta be. There's 2 6s. Where's the third one? I don't know, guys. I miss you. And I know that these things need a light shined on them. But I also know that I've just been really praying, and I've been praying a lot for you guys. And I've been kind of focusing and meditating on possible solutions on a small scale, on just my own life. And I hope that we can get to a point where we start talking about that. And I would like to do a stream about diet again, because I had several people interested in that, and I look at that all the time. I'm trying to change things that I eat, don't eat, and I change it up. I try something else, because I really I want to do whatever it is that we're supposed to be doing, and I feel like we've gotten so far from what mankind is supposed to be and how we're supposed to be living that sometimes it's hard to make good choices, and we have to train ourselves into making those wise choices again. So I'd like to do another live about treating your body as a temple and clean eating and saints that were vegetarians and vegans. But that smaller channel only has 8 subs, so I would have to do it on this channel. So if that's something you're interested in, please let me know. But the Alice thing, this is a huge topic. There's a reason I kind of just stuck with basics in this video, because I want to actually get into the story and how, again, here you see she is lost further when she cannot establish her identity. She is lost. Alice is lost, right? So CERN using Alice as one of their experiments, or is it the name? Them just using that name resonates that somehow something or someone is lost. See, I don't like CERN playing with quantum physics and quantum mechanics and protons and neutrons the way that they are, because I think that's messing things up as well. Oh, and the other thing I want to look into, I'll probably do a shorter video on, so watch for it. Allegedly, there was this experiment in Russia. Of course, it was in Russia, that another video mentioned briefly that I watched recently. But they did this experiment, and they could see forward into time, and they figured that out with torsion fields and a very simple Fibonacci, like the cave spiral. We've talked about that over and over. That symbol has been mentioned to me. I've seen it everywhere. Of course, it's in nature. So we're going to look into the time travel with mirror aspects. That's another reason we're looking at this. There's a spiritual and a physical aspect to this Alice in Wonderland concept, okay? And this is like the dark side. This is the dark spiritual aspect. But there is, again, I'm going to try and highlight both. So we'll do a part 2. And then we're going to do a whole other one where it's just CERN, and one more where we might do like Alice in Wonderland, Wizard of Oz, and all the symbolism in them both. I'm still trying to figure out about the red shoes. I've seen a lot of information about it. A lot of it is nasty. It's not nice information. But is it true? Is it valid? I don't know. That's the thing about the internet, and that's what is unfortunate about so many young people, is they think everything they read online is truth, and that's not a fact. And I mean, you can make a mock-up patent for anything and put it online and put it on in the wiki files, And that's the one bad thing about Wiki, is that anyone can change it. Anyone can add information. I could go on there and say I'm a scientist, and it's not always credible. And this is why I don't like digital information. So I actually have the Alice in Wonderland book too. So I'll be able to compare that to the one online. And we'll talk about the CERN time travel aspect too, because I think Alice and Atlas, that their experiment called Atlas, has a lot to do with wormholes and time travel. But I don't think they've written a lot about it yet. I'll have to go see. I am subbed. If you guys are not subbed, you should sub to the CERN YouTube channel. That way they send you updates on what they're doing over there, which is really cool. So, yeah. And I don't know what this is, but I'm glad we were able to get a little more information on that. So, yeah, I wanted to just get into Alice in Wonderland and how it applied to our current events, but I had to touch on this because I knew it was going to come up, and everybody has to understand that you could look at anything through an eye of light or an eye of darkness. It does not matter. So we're going to try and look at the positives of this and how this is playing out at CERN. And what do you do to protect yourself from that, from frequencies that are sent out? Do you actually wear a tinfoil hat? We'll talk about that too, because our bodies are made of water, and water is a conductor. And if you're careful about what you consume and what you put in your body, you can resonate at a higher frequency. And these things that are happening, these psychological operations like this, they won't affect you. But you have to be willing to be your own advocate and look into, how do I say this without getting into trouble, holistic measures. Right now, I just received today some mugwort. It's great for indigestion, and it's great for women at that time of the month, which I need a lot of help with, so I use it for that. And it's also amazing in sleepy time tea. It really helps me with lucid dreams. We've talked about that, and that is, of course, going to come up as well with Alice in Wonderland because it's a huge topic. And I also got something called Ghost Pipe. Allegedly, it takes away your attachment to emotional pain, which I thought was an interesting description. And it has been used by Native Americans for a long, long time. So hopefully I'll be able to talk a little bit about that and tell you guys how that helps me or doesn't help me. So far, I don't know. I just got it today, but I'll let you know in a few days. So yeah, that's what's coming. But because Alice in Wonderland has, when you do a search for her, now some of these things will come up, and I wanted you to know that yes, you need to be aware of it. Yes, we should be aware of it. But how do you fight these things, right? Now, we might have to save this webpage because, and again, it's a dark topic. It's going to tell you about darkness in the world and who's doing it. Is it all true? I don't think it's all true, but there are some items on this whole site. Let me go back to the top so you can see it. Oh, this ain't the one, is it? Did I? Fiddle-dee-dee, Jen. I want the... Oh, no. No. Can I go back? There. Okay, where was it? This one, this volley. If you want to look into some of these topics, they're here. You can look into them. I'm going to tell you right now, if you look into Fritz, I don't know whether to believe that stuff that man says or not. I really don't anymore. Because some of it, I feel like, is just disinformation again to get people to come to some type of civil war. But is some of it true? Absolutely, unfortunately. And here you have to submit information to them, so I guess it doesn't just go right up. But yeah, this will tell you about all those mind control things that they talk about on Stranger Things and worse. So if you want to see more of that, let me know. But as far as Alice in Wonderland goes, let's see if I can find it. Let's pull it up real quick and see if it's in here. There we go. I get updates in my email from CERN. Yeah, just whatever. DuckDuckGo is weird on this site. That's strange. Bollocks. Anyways, so you see, this is Alice. Alice detects quark gluon plasma, a state of matter thought to have formed just after the Big Bang. Yeah, so that doesn't even sound like a real thing. They do some bizarre things. We'll look at that on the other search engine, though. For some reason, it's not wanting to operate properly on DuckDuckGo. I've already clicked. Why are you not? Yeah. The Alice collaboration studies the quark gluon plasma as it expands and cools, observing how it progressively gives rise to the particles that constitute the matter of our universe today. That's crazy. And yeah, a lot of people don't know. There are a couple LHCs in the United States as well, in very interesting places. So yeah. And the names that CERN gives some of these things, like Totem and Atlas, it's just ridiculous. It's just ridiculous. But anyways, we're going to look at that. And we're going to also look at maps, but I haven't decided how to put that together yet because I want that to be a face-to-face video with you guys. And this kind of stunk that comments didn't work, so I apologize for that. But not my fault. I didn't mean for it to happen. And so the next thing will be looking at this through the looking glass, because there are some key concepts in there that I'm actually seeing, again, playing out from the media. So we have to ask ourselves, is it something that's naturally happening and coming through, or is it something inorganic and kind of planned and put there on purpose? The Red King dreaming, William Water, Alex meets the White Queen, who is very absent-minded, but boasts and demonstrates her ability to remember future events before they have even happened. See, that's why she has time going backwards for her. And I think it's because Alice does go through the looking glass. So everything there is illogical, unreal, and dominated by chessboards and chess pieces, which most of us know is also more MK Ultra symbolism. And now let's be clear. The story came first. MK Ultra mind programming, all that stuff, they kind of hijacked it, as they do, and stole this stuff. We have some very nefarious, wicked individuals, though. I'd really like to know the people that plan these things and currently, and watch out for them. Unfortunately, they only tell you about their dastardly deeds once they are no longer a threat. Like the men from Project Paperclip, which is probably where a lot of this stuff originated. I would not doubt it if we looked into that, and that's where this stuff came from. I'll try to find some more, though, but I'm going to stop this video now, and because I still have to do the Hopi video. I already have the mask scenes saved for you guys, so we'll talk about the Hopi in relation to iPet Goat 2. I just haven't been super motivated, so if you can, put up a prayer for me, that'd be great. And I'm growing some things, so that's cool. And I will show you what's growing when it gets a little bigger and it matters a little bit more. I'm a little worried it's not going to last now. But I hope you're all well. And if you need prayers, please mention it, because that's one thing that I can always do for people. And yeah, so I will try to put out more content. But again, what's becoming important to me right now is my spirit and my body and how it affects those around me and how those around me are affecting me. And so I'd really like I want to talk about spiritual things, you know? But that high strangeness that is happening can't be ignored. I plan on uploading one more video today. If you're still here, you might want to watch for that. It's about the Pope and the Vatican and some things that are very strange that should not be happening there. It'll be a quick upload. It won't be a live. So just watch for it. All right, guys. I love you. I will pray for you. Please pray for me. And next in Alice in Wonderland, we will pull up the actual book and look at some of the similarities into the concepts that we're seeing in that story and what's happening and unfolding in our current events. And again, the Hopi and the iPet Goat 2. I might do that one in between the Alice and give the Alice a break. That way I can pull up more information on this because that kind of fascinates me. And again, I want to know where it all originates. But I love you guys. I'm going to try and get Sammy outside to play if the rain stops. And try and get creative today. You know, maybe paint something, maybe draw something, maybe just rearrange something. But go out there and get creative. Touch base with nature. Take your shoes off and get grounded, you know. Walk in the grass barefoot. We need things like that. And we do need each other. So if you're in need of fellowship or you need an ear, please don't hesitate to reach out either. I love you guys.